Hello there, my name is James, and you might recall me from my previous video that I posted a little over 2.5 weeks ago. And in case you're wondering where I was, I had something called the Canadian flu, and here's an image of that here. Now, while I was sick and recovering from this, there wasn't a whole lot for me to do, so I ended up watching 30 seasons of The Simpsons, which is on Disney+. Now, as I was looking for episodes to watch, I came across this pre-made playlist, which is created by Disney, called The Simpsons Predict the Future. And it's all episodes in which things happened where The Simpsons predicted something that was going to happen in the future, and then it actually happened. I just want to mention that I think it's hilarious that Disney made a playlist about The Simpsons predicting the future, and they included the episode Homer versus New York City, where they predict 9/11. I just think that that's kind of strange that a company as wholesome as Disney would include that episode on this list. But in case you don't know what I'm talking about, people think that the creator of The Simpsons, Matt Groening, is a time traveler because of all the times that the show predicted the future. So here's a couple examples. The first one being the one that I already mentioned. Homer goes to New York, and Bart holds up this magazine that says you can go to New York for $9, and clearly you can see that the 9 is beside the World Trade Centers, which looks like an 11, so it's making the 9/11. And again, this was created a couple of years before 9/11 actually happened. Beyond that, there's an episode from the late 90s where Lisa is working for the government in the future, and she mentions about a budget crunch from President Trump, and obviously Donald Trump ended up being the president, so they called that one. After that, we have a poster saying that 20th Century Fox is now a division of Walt Disney Company, which ended up happening. As you know, Disney ended up buying Fox, which is why I'm able to watch The Simpsons on Disney Plus in the first place. After that, this is a big one here. This is footage which you can go watch if you'd like, but this is from I think around 2015 or so, and it is footage of Donald Trump coming down this escalator, and he's waving at everybody, and if you look at where Cartoon James is pointing, you will see that someone drops their sign here, and it actually happens in the video. Well, back in the year 2000, so 15 or so years before this even happened, The Simpsons literally animated this exact scene. They had Donald Trump coming down the escalator on the same angle, and if you look again where I'm pointing here, you will see someone drops their sign. So they animated this guy dropping his sign for some reason 15 years before the actual thing happened. And then lastly, The Simpsons had Lady Gaga performing at the Super Bowl. She comes down on these ropes, and then a couple of years later, that actually happened. Lady Gaga came down on some ropes during the Super Bowl and did a performance. So as you can see, there is some legitimate reason why people think that Matt Groening could be a time traveler. But my problem is that I looked into this further for further proof of him being a time traveler, and no one has done any research beyond just looking at the episodes and saying he must be a time traveler. It only took me about 5 minutes of looking to find further proof of it here. So here's a picture from the 1920s, and you can see in the top right corner there, clearly Matt Groening is hanging out at this bar in the 20s. So what is that about? And then beyond that, there is the album It's About Time by the Jonas Brothers, and one of their singles was called The Year 3000. Well, first of all, if you look at the Jonas Brothers, everyone always pays attention to Nick and Joe Jonas. Everyone ignores Kevin Jonas. We'll zoom in a little bit closer here and look at Kevin Jonas. Clearly, that is Matt Groening. And like I said, the single was called The Year 3000, and what else takes place in the year 3000? The show Futurama, created by Matt Groening. I should also mention that he's a new show called Disenchantment, which takes place in like medieval times. So clearly this man is obsessed with creating cartoons that take place in different time periods, probably because he's been to all of them. Now, this still wasn't enough for me. I needed to find more information that proves that he is a time traveler. So let me show you what I came across here. So the first thing that I have to show you looks like a used Band-Aid, and it is. But the rest of what I'm going to tell you doesn't make any sense without it. And then I have this gravel here, okay, gravel. But then beyond that, I realized that Matt Groening was born in Portland, Oregon, which I guess everybody's from Portland, Oregon now. I don't know what the deal is, but everybody's from Portland, Oregon, I guess. But I realized that Portland, Oregon is on the coast of Western United States. Now, what do you find on the coast of the US? Seashells, which to me, and this is just me talking, looks like a helmet for a rat. Now, if you ask the rats about this, they don't say anything. I mean, they run the other way. But that led me into this article talking about Oregon's growing rat problem. I guess Oregon has this issue with rats and other animals, and that includes wild turkeys. So this place sounds like a bit of a nightmare, to be honest with you, but apparently Oregon has this turkey infestation, and they're running around destroying the place according to this article. Well, this is where things get really interesting, because it turns out that a turkey's lifespan is 10 years, and the first episode of The Simpsons aired in 1989. Well, if you take the 10 years of a turkey's life and you add it to the air date of The Simpsons, it gives you 1999. Well, in 1999, The Simpsons was premiering its 10th season, and during that time, they had a dispute over the voice actors' salaries, which they ended up settling, and at this point, the actors began making $125,000 per episode. And I thought, okay, $125,000, what does that number mean? Well, then I come across this book called How It Began, A Time Traveler's Guide to the Universe. So I start reading this book and I come across this part that talks about how time travel could be possible and how they would need to travel at 125,000 miles per second. So they're saying the speed you need to move to travel through time is the same number as the Simpsons voice actor's salary that year. So then I thought, okay, well, what else is this book trying to tell us? So I look it up on Amazon, and it turns out that the Kindle edition of this book cost $16.22 Canadian. So I thought, $16.22, what a random number for a price for something. Usually it'd be like $16.99 or something like that. So what does $16.22 mean? Well, maybe they're referring to the year 1622. So what happened in the year 1622? Well, 1622 is the first recorded instance of bottled spring water. So I thought, okay, bottled water, what does that mean? Well, then I come across this article talking about the 12 best water bottles to travel with, more like time travel. But anyways, this article was posted April 15th, 2018. So I thought, okay, well, what does that date mean? Well, then I come across this book called Mysterious Encounters, Time Travel, and in that book, there's a paragraph talking about the grandfather paradox, which just refers to when you go back in time and you change something or kill somebody, and how that affects the future, basically. Well, the example they use in the book is if someone were to go back in time and warn President Lincoln that he was going to be assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, which just happened to have taken place on April 15th, the same date as this water bottle article was printed. So I thought, okay, April 15th clearly is an important date. What does it mean? Well, guess what else happened on April 15th? It's the exact same date that Matt Groening went to Fox and pitched the idea for the show Futurama, which just happens to be a show that is largely about time travel. So I think I've done a pretty good job of proving that Matt Groening is a time traveler beyond just saying that it seems like he is because he predicted the future a few times. I think that my information is pretty irrefutable, so case closed. Now I should also mention that before I got sick, I was taking my Patreon supporters on a little journey, on a little vacation, but when I got sick, I kind of just threw them back in the basement and I sort of forgot about them. I forgot that I'm the one who feeds them and takes care of them. So after a couple of weeks and I started feeling better, I noticed this awful smell coming from my basement. And I don't know, but I think they might be dead. Don't quote me on that. I'm going to look further into it and see what I can do. But I may have killed my Patreon supporters. But we'll see, though. We'll see. Anyways, thanks again for watching. Thanks for waiting 2.5 weeks for a video. Now that it's the new year and I'm feeling better, I'll be going hardcore on this channel and making tons of videos. So thanks again for your patience, and I will see you in the next video.